Good afternoon, everyone. Judy Maggio with KLRU's Decibel, and today on our dialogue we are going to be talking about some criminal justice issues, really. I have a filmmaker here named Julianna Brannum, and the subject of the documentary called 45 Days in a Texas Jail, Faylita Hicks. So thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. I know it's a busy time of year, and I appreciate you guys making the trip over to Austin PBS. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the concept for 45 Days in a Texas Jail. How did you find out about Faylita's story and why this particular topic when it comes to criminal justice?
Well, I was introduced to Faylita through Mano, Amiga, which is a grassroots organization in San Marcos, after I had identified Hays County as being the county that I wanted to focus on. There seemed to be a lot of problems there with criminal justice issues and kind of a multi-layered, multifaceted, kind of situation. And Mano Amiga does a lot of work with the immigrant community, but then also kind of shifted their focus a bit after meeting Faylita to criminal justice reforms.
So you kind of helped this nonprofit shift their whole focus.
Well, I would actually say that they started a little bit before me. We were focused on issues. Mano Amiga was started to kind of combat some of the ICE raids that were happening in Hays County. And then they realized that they were trying to help a lot of individuals, but they weren't going to be able to help as many people as they could if they moved over to policy. So Mano Amiga started making that shift to criminal justice overall and seeing how they could help the way everyday systems acted in Hays County. So I came on after meeting a couple of them. They asked me to come share my story, and it turns out that I don't want to just share my story, I want to actually do something about it. So that's how I came on to the staff.
So in other words, and we're going to talk about this particular project kind of changed your life.
It did. This project this year. In January, I was working at IHOP. Today I'm with you. And that's because of the work that I do with Mano Amiga.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear it. Okay, I want to show a clip from the movie, the documentary, and Independent Lens is a producer. And then I want to talk about the message that you really want people to come away with after they see it. It's just about a 2-minute clip. I watched the whole 12-minute documentary, and I have to say it's very powerful. So here's a little clip from 45 Days in a Texas Jail.
It sounds incredible to a lot of people. How can you spend 45 days in jail for $25 in groceries?
May 7th. Another girl gets to leave today. I'm not able to call anyone. I don't have any phone numbers memorized. I wish I could say that I was leaving. I'm ready to go.
I don't come from a background that has access to information about financial literacy. I don't come from a background that has access to lawyers or other people who can speak up for me and tell me this is how I should approach a situation.
May 29th, surprise. I'm still here, still sitting in this cell, and I'm wondering what and when to expect anything. I am kind of wondering about, I don't know, everything. I wish I knew what was coming.
In May 2010, my car died on the side of the road here in San Marcos, and an officer asked if I needed help, and then he asked for my ID. I was arrested on the spot for a $25 check I had written to HEB for groceries. I was homeless. Everything I owned was in my car and in a storage unit. By the time I got out, everything was gone, my car and my storage unit.
So the clip that you just saw was fairly early on in the documentary, and I want to first talk about what happened after that point, because there were some protests. Mano Amiga has been on the front lines kind of lobbying for change for the cite and release policies that they have in Hays County. So talk about what happened that people aren't seeing in the documentary, the clip that we showed.
Yeah, so after our time there in front of City Council, We were expecting to see kind of a quick turnaround from City Council on that vote. They have yet to actually set a day to have that vote. And so Mano Amiga is currently asking them to put the cite and release ordinance on the agenda by MLK Day so that we can have the vote sometime in February. We've been working on this for months, and so it kind of blows our minds that our City Council is taking as much time as they're taking for us to get the vote. It seems very very simple, like a very simple step in the process to, yeah, of course we want as many people who have low level nonviolent offenses to have an opportunity to go and take care of their lives without having their lives completely disrupted by an arrest to come back. But our City Council is, taking their time, and we're a little frustrated with that.
Well, and the Austin City Council has made some big strides in this issue. Has Hicks County looked into how Austin handled it at all?
They have looked at what Austin is doing, but I think what you'll hear very often is, well, we're not Austin.
Sure,
we're a completely different place.
That's true. I mean, the city demographics, the county demographics are certainly different.
But we are close enough, and we're in between San Antonio and Austin. We see San Antonio and Austin making some significant changes. And with us having such a large population that is students, about 50% of the students who were arrested in 2018 who were cite and release eligible were under the age of 25. We're arresting college students, and we're starting them out with a record. How are they going to get jobs after they graduate? Yeah. That's a problem. We think cite and release is going to help us with that.
Why this project? I know that this was a grant that you received for criminal justice type project. How did you decide that this was the story you wanted to tell? Because I'm sure there are lots of different criminal justice issue stories out there.
Right. Well, Independent Lens came to me knowing that I'm a documentary filmmaker, based here in Texas and from Oklahoma. And they came to me asking if I had, any criminal justice ideas for Texas and Oklahoma, specifically because they had identified those states as being sort of the more troublesome, states with criminal justice issues, and I came across a lot of information about Hays County and their arrest for low-level offenses. Low-level marijuana offenses. The numbers were pretty staggering. It made up a significant percentage of their total arrests was, having a little, a gram of marijuana. And ruining people's lives, like Faylita says, disrupting your life, and it can have a lot of serious impacts. Losing your job, to not being able to get a job because of that arrest on your record, and so. Whole careers, and when Faylita talks about young people and they have their whole lives ahead of them, it can really, really ruin your dreams, and so that was, I started, and after I met Faylita, finding out, learning that they didn't have a public defender's office, and it was nothing that they're even interested in doing. And knowing the statistics of court-appointed attorneys versus public defenders, I was like, okay, well, that's one of the problems. There's the cite and release, the over-incarceration. The numbers and the statistics show some level of racial profiling, in my opinion, with arrests. There's a lot going on there, and it's without these advocates going to City Hall and putting the pressure on, they'll just stay the same. And so, Mano Amiga is just like one of the most inspiring organizations I've come across. It was the work they do, and they're really passionate, and it's constant work. So,
and this is also portrayed in the latest Texas Observer. That you had a piece in the Texas Observer.
Yeah, the Texas Observer piece is actually the second one. The first one was directly about my time in Hays County's jail, and it came about after having done several interviews with Mano Amiga and presented in the local community. I decided it was time to sit down and write about it. The piece that came out is understanding that we all have bills we have to pay, and we all have families that we want to take care of. But the fact is, if you're low income and you come from a certain background and you live in Hays County, the likelihood of you having your life completely upended is much higher if you're getting arrested in Hays County. In 2018, 72 black people were eligible and had cite and release eligible options, and all of them went to jail. We only make up 5% of the county, and so it's very frustrating for me as one of those people who is black, who lives in that town, to hear that and to know that I may be walking into a neighbor and they've probably been to jail in the last 2 years. I think there's a lot that needs to get addressed through the city council and at the county level. You mentioned the public defender's office, and that's something that we pushed for back in May, and they decided not even to take it to vote. They shot it down before we could even get it to vote. And all we were asking them to do was to put in an application to get state funding to get a public defender's office. We're taking it back to vote. We want them to look at it again in 2020. And so us addressing cite and release is saying, look, we may not be able to do everything, but can we at least make sure that we don't take all these people to jail right off the bat?
What would you like the overarching message when people have watched this documentary? What would you like for them to come away with?
I have a master's degree, and I couldn't get a regular job in San Marcos because I have a record. And that record stems from me writing something as simple as a $25 check that bounced. If I had had a debit card, I would have been charged an overdraft fee. I didn't have a debit card, I wrote a check. I was a young college student, didn't do all the balancing, and me getting groceries turned into me being unemployable, despite my professional background, despite my actual the things I know how to do. I can't do those things because I have a record. And that is upsetting because I know that there are a lot of college students who are first generation like me who come into college wanting to make a difference and having their lives completely upended because of one mistake. I don't want that to happen to anyone else.
What would you like the message to be when people see the film that you made?
Well, I think kind of one of the more important or more impactful things that I took away from the film was actually at the end when you see them activating and talking to the representative of city council and explaining to them this is how it impacted me, and just it was so powerful. And then seeing just 2 weeks later that the chief of police did come out and say that he wanted an immediate expansion of the use, but
of cite and release.
But then Mano Amiga says no, we need you to take it a step further and eliminate those all those arrests and stop arresting people for these small offenses. And I just think that it's just so incredibly powerful that a community member can really make change and create change, and change only happens when people are out there working towards it. So I think it's a good message of getting involved.
Yeah. We definitely, I'm sorry.
No.
We definitely want the city council to consider making sure that transparency is happening with the San Marcos Police Department, making sure that they are actually documenting who's being arrested and for what reasons they're being arrested, and making sure that they are being held accountable. And if that means guiding that discretion for the San Marcos Police Department, it's not taking away their discretion, it's just making sure it's guided like you would in any other job that you have. You have someone who checks and double checks that you're doing the best job you can.
This documentary, final question, really changed your life. Tell us what you're up to now. You're now working at Mano Amiga, and you've written a poetry book.
Yes, I now work at Mano Amiga. I've written a book. I like to share it with people, Hood Witch, which is in particular about what it means to be a black queer body in Central Texas and my experiences with that. It's been very hard and very scary. Sometimes it does feel like you have a bullseye on you at all times. And so I had to write the book and I had to share it with others. The work that I do with Mano Amiga, I'm really hoping that if there's even one person whose life we can save just by changing the way that we handle our procedures, everything from the first interaction with an officer all the way to whether or not they can receive bail and be able to get out and take care of themselves, we'd like to do it all the way. So yeah, it's been a lot of writing. I'm doing a lot of writing. I wanted to do an investigative report. I'm learning that advocacy doesn't mean just standing up and yelling. It also means sitting down and writing.
Julianna, Brannum, Faylita Hicks, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
the story of 45 days in a Texas jail. And I'm thinking that it will be digitally online, so to speak, sometime in 2020 where people, probably PBS folks
It's online now at TexasObserver.
Okay, it is?
.com, yeah.
Okay.
Alongside Faylita's article.
Wonderful. So if you want to see the entire documentary, go to texasobserver.org. And then hopefully it'll also be picked up by PBS. And it's a wonderful story. It's a powerful story with an important message. And we appreciate you sharing your time with us this afternoon. And we appreciate all of you watching Decibel Dialogue this afternoon as well. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.